The Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 is the thinnest foldable phone on the market in 2022, and it also has one of the largest displays. That sounds pretty intriguing. The problem is, this phone is only being released in China. Still, would it be able to take on the likes of Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 4? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our full review. The new Mix Fold 2 is a big improvement over the previous model. It's much thinner and lighter, and both the inner and outer displays, as well as the hinge, have seen an upgrade. Plus, it also packs the latest flagship chipset and Leica branded triple cameras. But just like the first Mix Fold, this one is China exclusive. It's possible to import it to Western countries, but that's a hassle and comes with some real downsides. So we're reviewing this device as more of a curiosity, and to get a sense of where this cutting-edge foldable tech is going. Let's start off with the build. The Mix Fold 2's design is quite impressive. It actually looks and feels pretty elegant, which is more than you can say about many of the foldables we've seen come out so far. It's quite thin, especially when unfolded, at just 5.4mm. And the matte, frosted glass back and massive camera bump are in line with other modern flagships. The phone's hinge is upgraded over the previous model, and it feels quite secure. Maybe a little bit too secure. With the rounded frame, it's tricky to get open. And when the two sides are close enough, it will snap closed again. There is a faux leather cover which comes in the box though. It adds a lot of extra grip around the frame and looks cool too. There's also a built-in kickstand, which is useful. One thing Xiaomi has left out is ingress protection. Samsung's foldables, on the other hand, are IP rated against water. While the Mix Fold 2 is folded, you see the 6.56-inch AMOLED cover screen, with a 21:9 aspect ratio, a 1080p resolution, and 120Hz refresh rate. Like this, the Fold 2 looks a lot like a traditional smartphone, and it feels like one too. The cover screen isn't strictly a secondary one, it really is fully functional and comfy to use as your daily driver. It's bright and wide enough to feel natural. The fast refresh rate smooths out your swiping, and there's Gorilla Glass Victus protection too. But of course, the centerpiece of the Mix Fold 2 is the foldable LTPO2 OLED display. It's among the largest on the market at 8.02 inches, and it has a pixel density of 360 ppi and a 120Hz refresh rate. The refresh rate is higher than what the first Mix Fold could muster, and is very adaptive here, dialing down all the way to 1 Hz when it can to save energy. As far as the crease goes, it's visible and you can feel it, but it seems a bit less noticeable than the one on the Galaxy Z Fold 4, and the screen overall appears to be less reflective as well. There's great contrast here, and colors can be very accurate depending on the color settings you dial in. The brightness is quite impressive too. We measured a maximum of over 1,000 nits in auto mode when in bright sun. Both the inner screen and the cover screen have HDR10+ and Dolby Vision support. But when it comes to streaming, you may run into issues depending on the provider, because after all, this is a device meant for the Chinese market. While the original Mix Fold had 4 speakers, the sequel has just 2 of them. But they are larger and have Harman Kardon tuning and Dolby Atmos support. The speakers earned a good score in our loudness test, and the quality is nice, with well-presented vocals and some bass. The Mix Fold 2 has a side-mounted fingerprint scanner built into the power button. It's blazing fast and reliable to wake up and unlock the phone. For storage, you can get 256 or 512 gigs, or a whole terabyte. That's not expandable, but seems like plenty enough. The interface of the Mix Fold 2 is Xiaomi's MIUI Fold 13 on top of Android 12. Coming from China, it makes sense that the phone comes with plenty of Chinese apps pre-installed. And some of the functions are in Chinese too, even after we tried to switch everything over to a Western-style interface. There is support for Google services, but the Google apps, including the Play Store, aren't pre-installed, and setting it all up is a bit of a hassle, especially with the default Chinese keyboard. Once you've got it all going though, it's a pretty typical Xiaomi interface, with some tweaks to make use of the larger display. For example, there's a sizable dock at the bottom which holds app shortcuts as well as recent apps. Some apps, like Notes, the File Manager, and Settings, offer a split UI which makes use of both halves of the screen. Actual split screen is useful for multitasking, but you can't alter the size. The apps are always split 50-50 with the borderline on the crease. With 2 split screen apps and up to 2 floating windows, This means that you can multitask with up to 4 apps at the same time. In contrast, the Galaxy Z Fold 4 can have 4 apps just in split screen, and floating windows beyond that. In general, Samsung software does a better job to make use of the foldable form factor. There's just a lot more functionality to be found there. A new flagship deserves a new chipset, and that's just what you get with the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2. While the previous model ran on a Snapdragon 888, this one comes with the most current Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. As you'd expect, in benchmarks, peak performance is excellent here, with an edge over last year's flagships as well as many from this year as well. There's more than enough power here to handle multitasking and heavy games. The main issue here is somewhat expected from a modern flagship. The thermals leave a lot more to be desired, and it's likely even more difficult in the case of the Mix Fold 2 with its unique and thin design. Despite an advertised enhanced passive cooling system, the phone was unable to even complete our GPU stress test, overheating after just a few minutes. We didn't run into such critical issues when playing actual games though. The Mix Fold 2 is powered by a 4500 mAh battery, quite a bit smaller capacity than the one in the previous model. Battery life is still decent though, with the Fold 2 scoring a 108-hour endurance rating when using its cover screen, and an 82-hour rating with its inner screen. Plus, there's support for 67-watt fast charging, and the adapter comes in the box. With it, we charge the phone from 0 to 77% in half an hour. Now onto the cameras, which were designed in partnership with Leica. They include a 50-megapixel main cam with OIS, an 8-megapixel 2x telephoto, and a 13-megapixel ultra-wide cam with autofocus. Like we saw with the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, there are 2 color modes to choose from, Leica Vibrant and Leica Authentic. Since the Vibrant mode is the default one, we stuck with that one for our camera analysis. Photos from the main cam come out in 12.5 megapixels, and they're excellent, with plenty of resolve detail, likable sharpness, and relaxed processing. There's low noise, the colors are vibrant, and there's plenty of contrast. And while the dynamic range is good, it's not extremely wide. The telephoto camera saves impressive photos at 2x zoom. There is abundant detail, good contrast, impressively low noise, and a natural and balanced look. Except for the colors, which are punchy and lively. Photos from the ultra-wide cam are very good. There's a lot of resolve detail and better sharpness than many competitors. There's low noise, good contrast, realistic dynamic range, and vibrant-looking colors. The ultra-wide camera has autofocus, but the minimum focus distance isn't that close, more like 20 to 30 centimeters. So these wouldn't really be considered macro shots. In low-light conditions, the Mix Fold 2 will apply auto night mode processing to its photos. These sorts of shots from the main cam are good. They're well exposed, even somewhat brighter than reality. There's excellent dynamic range and good color saturation. The noise is low, and the overall detail is satisfying, even if not the best we've seen. If the auto night mode kicks in while zooming, you'll end up with a digital crop from the main cam. The results are okay, but with lower detail and some softness. On the other hand, if you toggle night mode on, zoom shots will be from the telephoto itself. The detail level is just average, but everything else is superb. The photos are bright, the noise is low, the dynamic range is excellent, and so are the colors. The ultra-wide camera's auto night mode produces photos that are clean of noise, with good exposure, colors, contrast, and dynamic range. And for this sort of camera, the level of detail is decent. Selfies can be taken with the 20-megapixel camera found in the cutout of the cover screen. These are solid. Noise is handled well, and colors are excellent. These photos aren't the sharpest around though. The other option is to take selfies with the rear cameras, using the cover screen as a viewfinder. On the inner screen, just tap on the button and turn the phone over, being careful not to accidentally touch the cameras or the controls. As expected, the rear cameras offer outstanding selfie quality. The images are sharp and detailed, with excellent contrast and wonderful color rendition. 4K videos shot with the rear main camera are good, but far from the best we've seen. You get great looking colors and contrast, but the resolve detail is mediocre, with lackluster foliage, and the dynamic range is about average. The main cam can also record in 8K resolution at 24 FPS. Unfortunately, these seem to be upscaled from the 4K footage. The detail is poor, the foliage smeared, and we can even notice some small artifacts from the upscaling. 4K videos from the telephoto camera are alright. The detail is okay, again lacking in the foliage department, but these offer great contrast and superb colors, low enough noise, and adequate dynamic range. The 4K videos taken with the ultra-wide camera are good. There's a decent amount of detail for this sort of camera, low noise, and wide dynamic range. The colors are good looking but a bit desaturated. One of the potential culprits behind the subpar video quality on the Mix Fold 2 is the electronic stabilization, which is always on for all cameras. It's just not great, and you end up with wobbly and jittery footage. So that's the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2. It stands out against the foldable competition with its impressively thin design, class-leading AMOLED displays, and Leica-branded cameras. In other ways though, the Galaxy Z Fold 4 has it beat, with waterproofing, better video recording, and more software features making use of the folding design. The thermal management is better there, and of course there's the availability issue. It is possible to get the Mix Fold 2 in the West, but you'd have to deal with the hassle and expense of importing, plus the setup of the Chinese interface, and the lack of support in case something breaks, which with foldables is definitely within the realm of possibility. Still, we appreciate what Xiaomi has made here, and we look forward to when they'll release this sort of cutting-edge tech to the rest of the world. Thanks for watching guys, and see you on the next one.